Welcome to the Starting Over podcast because wins don't last forever. I'm your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and today I have a special guest. I have Mr. George Masu, and we're going to be talking about the Infinity Gauntlet. I know a whole lot of you have been looking at it, hee-hawing about it, and still trying to figure out good ideas and how to use it. And so I brought him along so that we can try to iron out some good tech for you all to get a good foundation on the Infinity Gauntlet. So go ahead and say hi to nice people, George.
Hey, everyone, how you doing? Ed, how are you? Thanks for having me again.
No problem. And for those people that remember on my previous show, I had George on and I interviewed him. He is a great guy, and he has great insights. And I know when we were talking off the show, off the record, we've had some interesting conversations about Infinity Gauntlet and where it's going. So go ahead and share your insights on the Infinity Gauntlet if you want.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, I hope to talk about the competitive play with the full gauntlet. That's what I'm really focused on, is the full gauntlet, getting geared up for Worlds, and talking about how to use it defensively and offensively. So, I can first talk about defensive gauntlet, how to use it defensively.
Yeah, and I think that's something a lot of people don't know about.
Oh my gosh, this thing, first off, the gauntlet in general is like the best 40 points worth of support you can put on any character. I hope people use it widely and don't, use it for gimmicky, 10-point nurse TK. I hope they actually put on someone who's worth it, because you can get God entertained. This thing is awesome for 40 points. You get everything. There's no character in the game that can do what this 40-point piece of support can do,
Yeah, and that's been a big challenge with it. So when we talk about defensively, what options come to your mind when you're using the gauntlet defensively?
Oh my gosh, the first thing that comes to my mind about the gauntlet defensively is stackable defenses. Putting characters out there that naturally have like impervious, and then giving them, super senses and maybe having shape change all at the same time. More layers of defense, give you a better chance at evading attacks or dodging them or just doing no damage at all to you.
And so would you consider, like, if you're in a situation your opponent doesn't have pulse wave, I mean, that's the thing that we're assuming at that particular junction. You have invulnerability and you're on that super senses click, or you have that gem that's giving you super senses. Do you think it would be valid to take, one pushing damage so that you have damage reduction and damage evasion? Do you think that's a valid idea?
Oh my gosh, well, every situation has its own, or like wants its own set of circumstances, but if you get the push to get some kind of great defense, I'd say go for it. If you can get 3 layers of defense, push one time and not get hit the rest of the game, then it's definitely a push that was worth it. Okay, so as I was saying, when you stack your powers defensively, you want to pick characters, that you attach the gauntlet to that naturally have something like, say, impervious, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When you get this impervious, the gem, one of the gems, is going to grant you super senses, and when you start getting down to, the number 2 power, no matter where you're at in the dice, no matter how much you roll, you're always going to hit number 2, and you can start calling out your power-ups out. You want to take something like shape change or super senses, or maybe your character already has shape change and super senses, and you want to give them impervious. Stack up your defenses, okay? Try to evade or avoid any kind of hit possible from your opponent. So stackable defenses. Work with the gauntlet. The gauntlet works with characters that naturally have these defensive powers, and you can build on that, okay? So the idea is to, I know it's locking dice rolls, but the idea is to just basically frustrate your opponent because he can't hit you, he can't lay his hands on you, That's what the gauntlet does. It turns you into a god.
Yeah.
That's pretty darn awesome.
And I think one of the most interesting things is that it is really easy to stack defenses. Definitely once you're able to get down the dial and you're able to use any gem, you just say, hey, I have impervious, I say I'm going to use Time Gem, which is going to give me super senses, and then I'm going to name my power, which is going to be Shape Change. So you've automatically have 3 layers of defense. Or you could say, hey, I'm going to use Time Gem. I have Energy Shield. I'm going to call Impervious, and then I'm going to use Shape Change. So there's a lot of layers of options. Same goes with Combat Reflexes too. Definitely when you're on that +1 stat click, calling out things like Super Senses and Energy Shield are still valid, and it'll make your opponent really frustrated and really force them to stay in the fight, or allow your figure to stay in the fight, which is one of the best things I've seen.
I like those ideas. I like Energy Shield Deflection, I like Combat Reflexes, but there's ways around that. Obviously, if you have Energy Shield, your opponent is going to think, oh, okay, I got to go up and I can hit this guy in his chin, or vice versa. If you have reflexes, you have to get shot. And that's why I like the Shape Change. I'm going to emphasize the Shape Change, Super Senses, and Impervious, because you get a roll no matter what. No matter if you're, or I should say, when your opponent rolls dice to attack you, you get a Shape Change in the beginning to see if he can even attack you. And if he does manage to connect with you, then you get a Super Sense roll to try to evade it. And if you can't evade it, last line of defense is your Impervious. Just reduce all damage to 0. That's why I like those 3 powers. I think those are the 3 best defensive powers when using this gauntlet. So, like I said, when you choose a character for defense, you try to find a character that has Impervious, Super Senses, or Shape Change, and build off of that with the gauntlet.
That's interesting, and the main thing that you're sort of directly saying is, it's like, hey, if you don't have a whole lot of defensive powers, you may not want to consider a full gauntlet. You might want like some sort of defensive starting point if you're looking at running the gauntlet. Is that sort of what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. If you're going to run the gauntlet from a competitive standpoint, you're going to see all the competitive players putting it on characters that have some sort of base defense that gives them a roll, or like Impervious, like Super Senses, or like Shape Change, or a combination of any one of those 2. More likely, I think you're going to see the characters with Impervious. I got this feeling that the tent poles are going to return to HeroClix in this year's tournament scene, and I think you're going to see a lot of characters with Impervious wearing the gauntlet, because, like you said, the Time Gem gives them Super Senses, and then they can call Shape Change. Like I said, every situation dictates what you choose, but in most cases, if I feel like I'm going to be attacked, my opponent is going to be able to roll dice on me, I'm going to choose one of those 3 powers to try to minimize any kind of attack he pulls off on me. We can go to worse scenarios, like if he has range and he can't see through Henry, I can call Stealth all day, that's fine. But the scenario that I'm bringing up is, if your opponent is going to roll dice on you, how can you best evade or dodge or reduce anything that he's going to do to you? And that's why I like these 3 defensive powers the best. They stack great.
Yeah, and that's one of the best things that I think I've seen tech-wise sort of come out of this. And definitely, and again, people, we are talking about a full gauntlet here, and that you're going to have
full gauntlet. Yeah, you can get geared up for Worlds already. I know I can do fun that sometimes.
Yeah, and so you're going to be looking at having your Time Gem, you're going to have your Space of Reality Gem, you're going to have your Mind Gem, you're going to have these things. So we're looking at serious options of play. The other thing that, since we're looking at defense, trying to fight somebody with a full gauntlet, I think we've talked about many times on this show that Pulse Wave stock has gone through the roof. It's like platinum almost. Do you think there's a way for players to try to say, like, okay, I see that character has Pulse Wave, I have my gauntlet, I'm approaching 2, or I'm on 2. I'm starting to get that +1 stats. Things are looking my way. Is there any good advice for probably handling the Pulse Wave with the gauntlet?
Okay, well, if we're going to roll the offense part of the gauntlet, you have the 3 competitive powers. You have Hypersonic, Run Shot, and Charge. Pulse Wave, obviously, is the best power because it nullifies everything. It cuts through all the modifications that the gauntlet gives you, combat values, and it ignores all those powers that you can use while you have a gauntlet. So yeah, Pulse Wave is good, but be careful with when you do have Run Shot, you start getting these combat increases, you can start calling powers. Your range starts to extend. Okay, so most characters are going to have like about 6 range when they pulse wave, sometimes 7, depending on who they're playing. But just be careful. It's going to be harder to single target characters, but you still could put one through. Now, that's really not a great attack on a character with a gauntlet. You hit me for 1 with a pulse wave, and you hit my friend over here with 1. You're going to come after you, pretty hard next turn, depending on what kind of character I have.
Yeah.
But yeah, pulse wave is good, and later on in the show I'll explain what I think is best with the gauntlet. But pulse wave, yeah, it ignores everything. I mean, it's the ultimate weapon. It's just nothing stops it.
Yeah. I think one thing that as I was listening to you, the one thing that's sort of emerging to me is the only real weakness of Pulse Wave is make sure you get your friends involved and getting all the figures in the board, in there to make it so that when that person Pulse Wave, it's almost impossible for them to get a single target Pulse Wave off. And I think that's probably one of the best things you can do. And then also, remember, you still get your hindering terrain bonus against Pulse Wave. And so, a lot of people forget that. And so if you can land on hindering terrain whenever you do your last action, then, just go ahead and do it. It's going to give you a big advantage. Moving on to the offensive elements of the Infinity Gauntlet, I do sort of find it funny that the developers really didn't give you any damage powers. That's in the gyms. You get Range Combat Expert and Close Combat Expert in the gyms. But you don't get, a lot of cool stuff like, you don't just say like, oh, boom, easily early on or conveniently I have Psychic Blast. I mean, you do get it later on, but they don't give it to you in a sense of, when you roll the dice, here's your attack block, here's your defensive block of powers, here's your, your movement block of powers. They sort of shuffle it all around. So offensively, what's a good strategy of looking at using a full gauntlet?
Okay, offensively, from playtest, this is kind of what I can deduce. Going for the top powers, normally you would think Hypersonic is the best, do the traditional hero quick play, and then run shot, and then charge, okay? Hypersonic, I think, is probably number 3 on the characters who should be picked with a gauntlet. I think Hypersonic characters are the last characters you should pick with a gauntlet.
Oh, wow.
What?
Wow, that sort of goes against how most people are thinking about the gauntlet. I know even for me, with a partial gauntlet, I've been going for hypersonic people. So go ahead and elaborate on that, because that's an interesting point that people might not get that first time around.
Okay, hypersonic grants you a closer range combat attack. Alright, the power interactions you have with the gauntlet and with your character's natural powers are limited with hypersonic. With hypersonic, the only thing you can really do is maybe call super strength, pick up an object and try to crack someone, or steal energy. That's it. Now, here I am. I have my gauntlet on. I have shape change, I have super senses, and I have impervious. You have hypersonic and a gauntlet. When you come at me, I'm going to get all 3 of those rolls. You're not peeling back any of my layers and taking away any of my rolls. I'm going to get all 3 rolls off on you, which means it's going to be a lot harder for you to hit me. And if I have a character with run, shot, or charge, it's going to be a lot easier for me to put some damage on you or take away some of your defensive rolls. That's why I think hypersonic is probably the least offensive, or I should say, like, the worst offensive power with the gauntlet. It has the best movement still. Don't get me wrong, hypersonic definitely has the best movement, but it does not have the best offensive capabilities of putting damage through. No matter what, even if you bypass all the characters' defenses, the shape change, the super senses, and the impervious, you're still going to get to reduce by 2. That's why I don't think characters with hypersonic should be your first choice, competitively speaking.
That's interesting. So sort of explain charge, because a whole lot of people might not get why charge. And even with me right now, I can understand running shot, because we're going to move into that eventual, hopefully, I can land on name of power, running shot, pulse wave, awesomeness. But sort of go in, what's your mindset around charge?
Oh my gosh, charge. Okay, in my opinion, I think charge is probably the best power to put the gauntlet on a character. That's just my opinion. But the reason why I think that is that charge has the opportunity to deal out the most damage and get like those one-hit kills. Okay. However, charge has the worst movement and generally the worst range. So the learning curve of playing a charge character competitively with the gauntlet is going to be almost the same as if your character has a gauntlet. It's going to be pretty darn tough. Okay. But with charge, going back to power interactions, charge. Okay, you have charge and flurry. You have charge, exploit weakness. You have charge and quake. You have charge and battle fury. Charge and incapacitate. Charge and super strike. You can activate any one of these powers. So if your character already has the charge showing on his dial, when you start clicking your gem down and you start hitting those 2 or number 3 slots on the gem, now you start calling powers that peel back his layers. If you see you got shape change and impervious, if you know it, you say, hey, look, I don't want to get rid of shape change. I'm going to call Battle Fury a charge. Or you say, you know, I'm feeling like he's going to miss his shape change roll, but I want all of this damage going through on him. He's not going to get that impervious roll or reduce anything. I'm going to call charge and exploit because I'm going to go get him right in his mouth and he's going to be KO'd in one hit. That's why I like charge. It's very hard, but if they catch you, they're probably going to kill you.
Yeah, and I will like to make a correction to what I said earlier. I didn't have my gauntlet in front of me, and I just pulled up some information. I do see you do get damage powers. They are sort of in between and sandwiched at the end. You do get close combat expert, you get range combat expert, and exploit weakness.
You do.
Yeah, and so I apologize on that. And then also,
No, that's fine. But really, there really aren't too many offensive powers that are really game breaking. I mean, this thing is already powerful enough. I mean, can you imagine if the gems gave you pulse wave or psychic blast or exploit weakness?
well, it gives you
and
psychic
you get to
blast.
call power on top of it. That'd just be crazy, man. This thing is 40 points of you know, all the competitive players, I'm sure, are going to use it.
Yeah, it does give you psychic blast, but the one thing that I do find interesting, like you bring up, which is, you know, having charge and Blaze Claw's Fangs, and then
At this point, your character probably has 5 or more damage. I probably wouldn't use Blade Claw Fang, but yeah, you could definitely do charge and Blade Claw Fang.
yeah, because you get Blaze Claw's Fangs on 8, which is pretty good, and you haven't hit that full stride yet with the gauntlet. But there's also another note before you start before you get to naming powers, or really before you get to 1. You have the chance of having super senses either landing on that click or having the time gem 8 times.
Right.
So 8.
Which is, in the beginning turns of the dial, if you look at your little card they gave you with the gauntlet, it goes through all the powers they give you and what dial they're on.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. I guess I'm moving ahead. I'm talking about when you start to get number 2s. No matter what, no matter how many times you roll the dice, you're not going to skip over the number 2s.
Yeah.
And then once you get 2, you have 3 gems that are out there. Hopefully they'll help you. If they don't, you know, hopefully a couple will. But as soon as you start giving those powers and you start interacting your powers together, then you start stripping away your opponent's defenses and you can start putting some good damage through. And if I could touch base, you talked about pulse wave earlier. Once you get to number 2s, generally most charge characters have 0 range. So when they get that stat boost, all their combat values increase by 1. Okay, now these guys just became one of the most dangerous characters that they locked you up. Because now they have a pulse wave range of 1, which means as soon as they lock you in combat, they're going to pulse wave you. You know, next turn, whatever it is, and they're only going to hit 1 character.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's just, it's deadly. It really is deadly. Like I said, if a charge character hits you with the gauntlet, he's probably going to kill you.
Wow. And then the other thing that is sort of nice is that WizKids recently has made 0 range characters a little bit more beefy on the damage side. So you're looking at 6, 7 damage on average.
Definitely should be beefier too, because you know it's harder for them to hit you.
Yeah. I mean, one thing you bring up about having that 1 range because your stat is increased and how it does translate into being valuable for a pulse wave. A lot of people, and including myself, I hadn't really thought of that, and that you can't not almost guarantee, you know, having a single target pulse wave unless you place poorly.
Right. Charge characters are pretty darn offensive. They're offensively awesome. I think the best characters with the gauntlet. It really improves them. I think a lot. It really does good for them. Their movement gets to go up. They don't seem like such a character who just gets beat on all day long.
Yeah. And so there's something else that's interesting when I look at the Space Gem, and I think it's the Space Gem allows you to increase your movement, and I found that interesting, and also you get phasing teleport and the ability to carry. But definitely the big thing I look at is you modify your move speed by 2. And so when we're talking about being able to name your own powers and stat modifications, if you do get the Space Gem, you add the Space Gem on top of, on 2, so you have +3 movement. And if your charge range initially would have been 5, now it's 8. And so you can get wherever you need to get once you have that Space Gem. So I think people might not fully understand that, those zero range characters are competitive just for that pure fact is once you get that charge going, in the Space Gem, you have the same sort of swing as a range figure at that stage. Once you hit 2, if you still have charge. So I find that to be sort of fascinating. But going on, we're now sort of looking at movement options. Things that, may or may not stand out with the gauntlet, with movement. So what comes to your mind tech-wise when we're looking at, movement, placement with the gauntlet?
As far as, are we still talking about charge characters there? Their movement,
Charge, or utilizing, phasing teleport, anything. So sort of try to rephrase it. So like when we look at characters with, they have high movement or placement or high movement numbers. When we're talking about deploying with the gauntlet, what things come to your mind? Do you think like, hey, we're going to get leap climb, or actually plan on using leap climb phasing, or even sort of saying, looking at the situation of saying, hey, maybe I need to think about plasticity as being viable at some point. What things come to your mind when you start looking at the movement powers?
Movement, well, phasing for sure. Like as you try to build up your gauntlet, I like phasing a lot. If you get a jam and you end up taking the first hit, it slugs for 4 or 5. Your character's down, 4 or 5 clicks. You can't even get the heck out of there, man. You can never be locked up. There's just so many different options with this thing. You can, if you're a charged character and you really want to charge someone, you can declare plasticity. Break away and go charge someone. Go knock them out. They want to try to lock you up with something, but you have exploit weakness and you want to use it. I want to call hypersonic because they're impervious. Sure, I'll call plasticity, break away from this flop piece and go nail his big figure.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you have to do. There's so many things you can think about. But you just got to get put in the situation and start practicing with it to really start saying, oh, yeah, that's what I can do if a situation like this comes up.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing is like map awareness. Everyone says like, oh, I'm going to play the gauntlet and I'm inherently going to be on the Sinister map. Or you're going to say, I'm going to play the gauntlet and I'm going to be on the Madripoor map. No, you need to more along think about, hey, if I see water terrain, how am I going to be using water terrain with this figure? When I see hindering terrain, how am I going to be using hindering terrain? When I see walls, how am I going to be using walls? Because I know certain characters end up utilizing the gauntlet differently. And so you might say, hey, if I really need walls for my gauntlet user, then maybe I need to really focus on these elements of the gauntlet, like the stealth or other things, just in case, I don't get a map with walls, such as Krakoa.
All that is situational. The situation dictates how you're going to play out your opening moves and start dancing with your opponent. And that's really just up to you in your practice. If you really want to get better, playing the terrain, then play all the maps. Pick your team and play it on all the maps. figure out where your strengths are, which maps are your weaknesses, and work on the ones that you're weaker on. We still have to talk about running shot too.
Running shot.
I haven't done that one yet.
Yeah, well, one thing that's sort of interesting with running shot, in my opinion, because once we say, hey, if you have running shot, that running shot pulse wave, adding in space gem, adding in so many other elements, it becomes ridiculous. I've seen close to cross map approaches with some figures, and
yeah, that's true.
That new Silver Surfer that's coming out. Spoiler alerts for anybody who hasn't, watched the internet in the last few weeks. Pretty much with his full move running shot, he's like one of the few figures that I'm afraid of with the gauntlet when he gets to full power, because if he's on that, I can move my full movement and running shot you and pulse wave you. There's no way for you to avoid getting single target pulse wave unless you hide your big guy, back behind in a corner surrounded by little guys. He's guaranteed to just approach you from whatever angle's best. So
run shot is, to me, run shot's like that like nice medium. I think it has a moderate learning curve. You can the power interaction. You talk about run shot pulse wave. Don't forget you also have run shot psychic blast, which is very important. And definitely gets through impervious. Your opponent may have shape change your super senses, and but you can always get through his damage reducers, which is pretty big.
Yeah.
So once again, you're limiting him to how many numbers of rolls he gets to dodge and either reduce your attack. Running shot pulse wave is good. Their movement is moderate, and their range is the best. I think characters that start with run shot that don't necessarily have pulse wave or psychic blast can augment themselves later as they keep turning that dial, the gauntlet dial. And then they can start calling psychic blast, they can start calling pulse wave. And I think run shot characters are probably going to be really dangerous. You're going to see a lot of them this year on a competitive scene. I think you're probably seeing more run shot characters than hypersonic or charge, for sure.
I think the other thing that sort of gets brought up is, hey, I go and use running shot, and then I declare stealth. I think that is one of the few things that may show up that people are going to say, okay, I know he's going to reduce my damage down, but if I call stealth, he has nobody that can see through stealth, and his only way of dealing with stealth is either TK, which I know I'm outside of that TK range. He can't running shot TK, or he's going to have to pulse wave me. I know there are a lot of Superman figures out there, but I think what's going to happen is that with the Superman figures, you're sort of limited with their swing. They either go all in and put them at a very risky position due to their hypersonic speed and OK range, or they are like Supergirl where you're just running shot in, and then you're sort of stuck, and you can snipe somebody almost outside of their running shot range with Superman team. So that's the one thing that I'm thinking about currently is, how do I find those good 10, range figures that are still in the meta and put a gauntlet on them, and if I'm able to get to that stage, is stealth still viable? And I think it is.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I think run shot is definitely a great power set. It's got a really good swing. And it has a penetrating damage. You can call stealth, all that is like I said, situational again, depending on who you're playing, what map you're playing on. Stealth can help you, the combat reflexes or the energy shield, but if I'm playing a run shot character, I'm looking for someone with, like I said, some sort of damage reducer, or one that starts with, some sort of super senses and maybe toughness, and has shape change, or however I can stack my defenses. That's going to be the way to go. Stacking up defenses, and that's going to be your best bet as far as the gauntlet, how to get your character with the gauntlet or without the gauntlet.
Yeah. Okay, and so there's some things that come to my mind. that's been a bit unique. Definitely, and we're keeping this in the scale of 300 points because I know once we get past 300 points, some things become a little bit more feasible. You can do lamp, you can do some other things that are just ridiculously silly once you start naming powers. Once people start naming Mastermind with the Gauntlet character, unless you have Pulse Wave, it's almost like GG because they just alternate between Mastermind, and support if they want to. And they have one turn to heal and the other turn to just shove off damage, when they're pushed off. So there's a lot of crazy things that you can do with a
There's tons of
past
options.
400
Oh my
points.
God, there's so many options, and we haven't even, seen Galactic Guardians yet. Okay, I don't know what's coming out after that as far as like any like the movie packs or whatever else they're making.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's just a ton of options. We haven't even seen all the characters yet.
Yeah.
Clickathon is here in a couple weeks. And to me, it's kind of like kicks off it's like opening seasons for the tournaments, of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to make Clickathon because it's a good time and there's going to be like a bunch of players there. So Clickathon will be the first time we're going to probably see some Gauntlet in action and tournament play. And then the Origins comes after that. For the Nationals and then, of course, Worlds, and there's a couple tournaments in between, but slowly we'll start accumulating these gems and we'll have everything finished, I think, before Worlds here, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and it's going to get ridiculous here real soon. I know the tournament reports are going to come in about what people have used partial Gauntlet on, and so sort of moving back to that framework that we're working in, that 300-point framework. What type of figures are you seeing are emerging as in your play testing as like, man, that's some good tech, right there.
You mean for partial gauntlets like right now?
Or a full gauntlet, or yeah, we'll go for full gauntlet right now. Figures you're like, man, that's just ridiculous.
Figures, well, my two best figures right now, my two favorite are Black Bolt and Black Adam. Those are my two favorite.
Okay.
Full gauntlet. Each of them are about 200 points each. They have good damage. They have good power interaction. Man, I think right now, without seeing anything else, I think these are probably the two best characters with the gauntlet.
Yeah, and definitely when you bring up that single target pulse wave game, that's important. And another thing with Black Adam, I know for sure from playing them is once you get that lightning regen going off, a lot of people start getting frustrated, and definitely when you get it off multiple times in a game. And the other thing that's interesting, because I know when we talked previously, off the show, you were talking about your testing with Black Adam at 200 points, and you were more along saying, having those extra clicks, just to absorb has been helpful. So if you want, could you sort of go into that a little bit?
Oh yeah, the 200-point Black Adam. Those three extra clicks, those 3 clicks are three best clicks for the gauntlet. But when he has 8 clicks, you can't really one-shot the guy. Same thing with Black Bolt. I think he has 9 clicks, I want to say, 9 or 10, I'm not sure. But same thing, you can't one-shot the guys. So if you do hit them, you can always phase out next to, start doing their regen, call regen, start healing back up, running away. And once you two start getting the gauntlet, especially like Black Adam, he's hard to use, but he does have Hell is Here. And now that you have the willpower granted by the Soul Gem, I guess now you can finally take advantage of a full movement charge. So instead of picking up an object, you would want to declare like Flurry or something. So go there and make sure you're hitting someone for 6 and 6 or 5 and 5, something like that. So, that 10 movement charge really helps them. If, you have to put a second token on him, it's unfortunate, but at least you're not taking damage anymore for it.
Yeah.
That's what makes him pretty darn deadly. And the fact that he has a defense, Defender of Contact, makes him, partially immune to outwit, at least for the 1 click. His next 2 battles have Hypersonic and Battle Fury, so he's still peeling away some sort of defensive layer on your opponent. And if you want to heal back up, you can always declare Steel Energy. So So you can peel back a layer of defense, your opponent's defense. You can declare steel energy and heal back up. You'll still have hypersonic because you've declared it to the gauntlet, and now you're back at full or close to it. And it's just, like I said, it's very situational. Depends on the team you're playing and what you're getting into. But I think Black Bolt and Black Adam right now are the two best characters with the gauntlet without having seen everything.
And see, the other thing you sort of bring up about that steel energy is that once you put that soul gem into play, and the soul gem comes up a whole lot on that dial when you start looking at it, is charge. You hit somebody and you're on that soul gem click, you're getting steel energy, okay? But not only that, if you KO, you heal even more. So Black Adam's damage values are already through the roof. And so you can decide, like, hey, I'm going to hypersonic in, go, all the way through with it, and I'm going to put an object, down on this guy, and then once I do, I know I'm going to heal up just from the steel energy. So I definitely with Black Adam with the full gauntlet has been interesting play testing for me and for you. I don't have the full finesse down. I'm so used to playing Black Adam at 100 points. When you start talking at 200 points, my brain sort of goes into a different mode. I think I baby him too much, which I shouldn't.
Yeah, that 200-point balance is pretty wicked with the full gauntlet. I'm really enjoying playing with them with the full gauntlet.
The other thing that came into my mind when you said Black Adam is, and you are talking about the super rare Black Adam, not the limited edition Black Adam, correct? Or are you talking about the super rare? Oh, you're talking about the super rare, okay. And so with that, how are you getting over like his movement and abilities? He doesn't have running shot, he doesn't have charge, he has awesome numbers otherwise. So what are you doing?
Like I said, he has the double power action held up here. So you can use charge normally, or you can take a double power action. I mean, by the time you start clicking down the gems, you may get lucky and a space gem shows up, and your combat stats are only increased by 1. You don't even need to take a double power action at this point. But if it's early in the game when you're still clicking the dial down, and you're still going through the standard powers instead of the numbers, if something comes up in a situation where you need that, with a double power action, you can do that. Hopefully you have something good on your attack or movement slot, but you can get in there. And then if you're playing a swarm team, which I think I really see more tentpole teams than swarm teams this year, because I see swarm teams as just being like, we have a joke here in my basement when we play this gauntlet. Every time someone plays like little support pieces, it's like you're nanobotting objects. For those of you who remember the feed card nanobots, every time I go and get someone, the damage is up so high right now. I'm hurt a couple. I have a couple clicks gone. I have the soul gem. So I say I'm going to go nanobot this little researcher. I'm going to nanobot that little agent or something. You go over there, you kill him, you get 1 for steel energy and 2 more for KO, and I think it's like you're back on full. I mean, it's wild. And if you have flurry with the charge characters, I mean, you can do it twice. You can potentially heal 6 clicks. Charge characters are very dangerous now. Black Adam in particular.
Okay, and so when we look at Black Bolt, and I sort of misspoke about previously with Black Adam, I was looking at the wrong thing, and I was thinking the wrong thing. It's more so my limitation issues with Black Adam was, sort of going in and then being stuck, and then going in, trying to go in again, and just pushing and pushing through. And you sort of touched on some of my initial thoughts with bringing up that flurry element, and also about him being a lot more survivable than people think, just for those multiple layers of recovery. When we're looking at Black Bolt doesn't have running shot. Black Bolt doesn't have charge. So what makes Black Bolt still viable with the gauntlet, or hey, I need to consider this with a full gauntlet?
Okay, Black Bolt. Oh my God, this guy's great too. I don't have his card, but I do know that he has a double power action. Give everyone within his range, his unmodified, or his printed damage value, at 4, which is awesome. He has 9 range, 3 targets, sharpshooter. So he has pulse wave, psychic blast, and I think it alternates, just over halfway down his dial. Mm-hmm. The only thing this guy is missing is the run shot. But if you augment him with the gauntlet, you keep clicking him, eventually he's going to get to that. And then you can start declaring your own one shot. You just go out there, you start like blasting people, you can start pulse waving people. Or you just flat out shoot them, you got sharpshooter, just flat out shoot them. I think Black Bolt's great. He's 200 points. He's with 193, almost 200 points. So you're not going to one-shot him no matter what, maybe unless you're Black Adam. But for most of the characters out there, you're not going to be able to one-shot this guy. I think he's very, very strong. I really like Black Bolt.
Okay.
Just because you can take that double power action to activate that pulse wave. So you have to worry about your range being up to 6 now and catching multiple characters in a blast. Doesn't matter. If you can take a double power action, do it. If you can't, no big deal. You just declare hypersonic, declare run shot, just go target 3 people, whatever you want to do. Or just declare sonic blast. You can see through opposing characters. He's really strong in my opinion.
And see, I think one thing with Black Bolt that has sort of struck me with various things is like once you go back to your Infinity Gauntlet and you're like, man, I'm on my early clicks. I have 3 and 4 damage. You start saying, what's stopping me from using, the Soul Gem, and I'm going to KO a figure and, heal back up. The other thing that comes to my mind is like, you just pretty much say, what's stopping me from using the Power Gem and getting range combat expert, and blasting a guy for 6.
Great defense, good damage, great range. He's got 9 range. I mean, that's hard to come by. Most characters get 5 to 8 range. Even 8's great. This guy's got 9.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I think he hits on that wonderful thing about damage reduction, and then you add in the time gem, and he's like, bam, I have super senses, and later on you can just be like, I declare shape change if you want to.
Right. Now you see the 3 layers of defenses. So if you know you got someone out there who's going to hit you no matter what, because they have a gauntlet too, other than pulse wave, I mean, you're going to have at least 3 rolls unless they, like I said, have run shot or a charge where they can start declaring powers that interact with that run shot or charge to strip away some of your defensive layers, to bypass them basically, And then that, increases your chance of hitting the guy, or if they don't, I feel bad for hypersonic characters because they got to make, there's 3 rolls that your opponent gets to make. That's why I really don't think I've seen any of the 150 Supermans out there. I just don't think he's good enough. They're worthy enough to carry the gauntlet. I don't think so.
Wow, that's something I think a whole lot of people weren't expecting to hear was 150 point Superman shouldn't carry the gauntlet.
This is big, man. Black Bolt, Black Adam. That's in my opinion, that's where I put my money. But without seeing anything hasn't come out, Galactic Guardians or whatever from here forward. Right now, if it was full power, I'd put my money on Black Adam and Black Bolt. Here.
Okay, I will say real briefly with the full gauntlet, I will say I haven't strayed from most of the conventional tech. I will say Magneto, just for the pure fact of Hellfire Guards. Once you start adding in Hellfire Guards, it's ridiculous. He shouldn't be able to do what he's doing. For those people that were already playing Hellfire Club teams, you just remove one Hellfire Club guard, add on the gauntlet, and then you just watch Magneto do things that he shouldn't do. The other is Noh-Varr, and mainly Noh-Varr's there because, if you notice this thing, we're saying running shot, pulse wave, psychic blast, defensive damage reduction. Noh-Varr has it. He has all of that for most of his dial, and he has ways of sustaining himself. Is his numbers as ridiculously awesome as some other characters? No. But with that being said, with him being over half your team, you can put in enough other support figures that can do awesome things with him. My 0-1 range character, this comes from my man Jay, from where I play at, is Juggernaut. I have to admit, I played at home with Juggernaut and used the full gauntlet, and he's ridiculous because the moment that you can't outwit Juggernaut is the moment that you have to risk exploit weaknessing Juggernaut. The moment that you have to get in there and say, I can't let Juggernaut run around with Power Cosmic and do what he does. He's almost unstoppable. I've had harder times dealing with Juggernaut in play testing than I had with Magneto, because with Magneto, eventually I could pull some things around, but with Juggernaut, automatically just saying, no psychic blast. You can't outwit him. My main ways of dealing with him just went out the window. So that one made me rethink, my team building with the Juggernaut for zero range. And then when you add in what you said about that, I have one range and pulse wave. I wasn't even play testing like that.
That's a crazy maneuver. That works awesome with Black Adam. And charge in. Next turn, if you're still sitting there, if you got, heaven forbid, you got 2 tokens on you, I'm going to pulse wave and just finish you right there.
Yeah, and the other thing with Juggernaut, just for the side note, is that mystical helmet with him with that +1 defense. And so he starts out at 18.
I believe he also ignores Psychic Blast, right?
Yeah, he ignores Psychic Blast, Mind Control, and other things.
Awesome.
Yeah, and he has to take 3 or more damage for that, his helmet to pop off. So you're pushing so hard trying to kill him. And, yes, he has Indomitable, and you are paying for points that you're technically not using. But, you don't want him landing on a gem that gives him super senses. You don't want that. You don't want him landing on the time gem. You don't want him landing on the power gem if he's already based to you. You almost, it's sort of sad, is that when that dial turns, there is nothing good that's going to happen to you, as the opposing player when Juggernaut is nearby. And the worst part is like hurting him. Once you add in that space and time gem, if he's still on that nothing can stop the Juggernaut, he just moves ridiculous. He just goes almost half across the map, once the farther he gets into that power. So, I mean, those are my top 3 for full gauntlet. And I know some things with other people have some other figures that are a little bit more popular that they like to go to, but those are my top 3. Partial,
top 3.
yeah,
I like those picks.
yeah. For a partial gauntlet, who's your go-to person? So like we're already looking at pretty much when I say partial, we're not putting the full 40 points in.
Right. Okay. Let's bring it back to today's day. We have the Soul Gem, and some of us maybe have the Power Gem. So partial gauntlet, anybody that has Quintessence or Galactus Herald, or anyone like Indomitable, because they're charging up their gauntlet a lot quicker than the characters who don't have it. Like right now, if I play Black Adam or Black Bolt, they have a difficult time because they're not as good as, say, Imperiex. Where you have the guys 208 points, you have the Power Gem, you have the Soul Gem, now you're giving 300 all by yourself, or like Metron would be okay with it, Quasar, White Lantern Sinestro, maybe with 1 gem and a prop person or something. All those characters are good right now. But I think as the gauntlet, becomes stronger and you start to obtain all these gems, then those characters aren't going to be as strong as the ones we talked about earlier. So for right now, Quintessence and Galactus Heralds, Indomitable, things like that. Those characters are probably really fun because they build up their heater so quick.
I agree, and I'm going to sort of throw out some more specifics. White Lantern Sinestro. White Lantern Sinestro is the most ridiculous thing with a partial gauntlet, and I've only seen him with the Soul Gem. Add in the Power Gem, he can do more ridiculous things. Really, the one I'm concerning about is him with the Time Gem, because the moment you add super senses into everything else that he has, I hate to say it, that's going to show up at Worlds. I think White Lantern Sinestro with a partial gauntlet, him just saying Steel Energy Gem and Time Gem, Soul Gem and Time Gem, that's all I need, 20 points, and then add in, a nurse or something. The other one that comes up, bigger games, Ganthet, but I just sort of just say he has pretty much, he either has post wave or he has running shot. So he always has one of the two. Hulk Robot, that sucker, he always gets in close. So there's no excuse for him not to be there. And you're looking at running the power gym, running the time gym, and running the space gym, because you need those three in particular so that he can get in and out, then also do a lot of damage while he's there, and then heal and do when he does damage. The other one is the Galactic Guardians Gravity Feed Doctor Doom, and some people might not know about that figure too much, and so
I don't.
yeah, he's new. You really have to sort of say, look him up. I think his number is 205.
Okay.
The main reason I like him is A, he is indomitable. B, he's 139 points. And a lot of people would say, like, okay, he deserves the full gauntlet. And in my opinion, he doesn't. And here's the main reason I pick him, is he has a power called Force Shielding Armor. Dr. Doom can use energy shield deflection and invulnerability. If an adjacent opposing character attacks Dr. Doom and misses, the character is knocked back from Doom a number of squares equal to their printed damage value. So pretty much he can stay at range, which I think is awesome. And then the other big reason that I looked at him was that his numbers starting off are ridiculously cool. He has Minions of Doom team ability, so he can copy, whatever you really need. And I thought he was sort of quirky enough that if you lost him, you didn't feel bad because you've built enough other attackers on your team to roll with them.
Interesting. I'll check him out.
Yeah, so that's my other one. And then I have one more.
He's a good villain character. He's awesome.
Yeah, the Doctor Doom, really, that one has been the best one so far. There's one more that I had, and this one's going to make people laugh and then afraid at the same time. And this comes from a thread that someone pointed out with of all figures Larfeez with feats. And that Larfeez was able to do ridiculous amount of things with feats. And then I thought, what happens when I put the gauntlet on him? And the thing that it got real silly with Larfeez was the first few turns I was just cranking out objects. And then after I cranked out objects and I pushed to crank out objects, I had two nurses just sort of healing me up. And I was just playing around with it just for proof of concept. Once you put in the power gem and you put in the time gem, and then you put in, and I know this is also the soul gem. Time gem, power gem, and soul gem. Those three. You need three, so it's a little hefty investment. Once you put those three on him, he does ridiculous things because he sends out his little constructs. He puts them base to people. He poisons them, and then he close combat experts them through the little orange lackeys. Okay, then it gets better because if he hits you, he's going to heal. So he keeps forcing himself to crank out more guys. And so you keep one next to you, so if it gets ridiculous, you can absorb more damage, and of course the nurse is hitting you. And then once you are able to name a power, you just name Outwit, and you use Outwit through your guy, and then you poison them, and then you hit them with Close Combat Expert. It was the most ridiculous combination ever. Now, some people might say, why don't you just go ahead and put the full gauntlet on him? Because I didn't think it was worth it. Because you can do so much with him with a partial gauntlet. And then the other awesome thing is that when you look at his stats, they don't change. He has 3 clicks of 11, he has 4 clicks of 10, and 1 click of 9, he's 8 clicks deep. And he has so many ways of shoving damage off. So I was just like, he doesn't need a full gauntlet. If you're going to do stuff to him, that's fine. But he didn't need it. So, and if you ever did get close to Outwit, he just runs away. He just runs away so many times. It's just ridiculous. So those are mine for a partial gauntlet. Now note, the following thing I'm going to bring up, me and George disagree on. So we've talked about this a bunch of times in our private conversations, and this trend that's come up, and he's not fully for it. So I would hate to say it like this. I'll be devil's advocate, and it's partial gauntlet on support figures. Okay, George, go ahead. I'll give you your time. Sort of state why you do not like the partial gauntlet on support figures.
I just think it's a waste of a gauntlet. I mean, can you imagine putting a gauntlet on a 10-point nurse just to fire off TK one time and then what? It's like you just lost all those points for nothing. I don't know. I think if you're going to use the gauntlet, you use it on a character who benefits from it. Right now, with these partial gauntlets, swarm teams are still really good. Even Nightcrawler's decent with the gauntlet, a partial gauntlet. Eradicator's great. I mean, but like a nurse or a researcher or a pog or whatever, it's just, I don't know. It's probably more fun than anything. Or I can't believe you put that on it. And oh my god, it's hilarious, But yeah, if you're like going to a tournament playing competitively, I don't see what the heck you ever put a gauntlet on a piece of, a nanobot figure for. I like to call those characters nanobots now. Every time I need to eat or get the life back, I'll go nanobot one of your characters. So.
Yeah. Okay. Now, no, George is a bit more qualified on this than me. But here's the main reason I look at support figures with the gauntlet. He did bring up the TK. The first turn TK is nice, and then the other thing that you can do is they can just sit there. First, a lot of people put the presupposition of first turn TK. Blah. Remember, the dial only changes when you do an action. When you do a really like a power action or something like that. So you can't just be like, oh look, it's the end of turn one, my dial changes. It doesn't work like that. So you can put the gauntlet on a figure and just carry it around and be like, pocket one time TK, Black Bolt needs a TK nurse, slingshot me, launch the teleporter, and then from that point on, everything's gravy. I'm more so, I will admit, even though I did use the nurse analogy, I don't like the nurse with the gauntlet. It's like a necessary. It is a waste of points. I will say that because it is a one-time use. Do I understand why people do it? Yeah, when points get tight. But I think it's better that when points get tight, that you have other figures on your team that you would put that gauntlet on instead. The other thing that comes up to me when I look at support figure and gauntlet is sort of the following trifectas. You have a figure with perplex. Now they have outwit and prob, or outwit or prob. You have a figure with support. Now they have prob. You have a figure that is able to do some sort of weird effect like barrier or whatever else. Then you call out willpower. You have things that you can sort of say, oh, I've done this once, I'm going to do this the next turn. And then this is, again, once you say you get down the dial. So here's some support figures that I feel that HeroClix are going to be turning to in the future. Now, no, these aren't all the ones that I agree with using, but I know that they're going to be used. The first is the nurse. People are going to be like, 15-point support, yay! I understand that. I just understand from a tactical point. So it's there. People are going to do that, so be aware. The next one is Elixir. Best healing in the game, bar none. Best healing in the game. I heal my guy, and then I heal the guy adjacent. You get TK out of him. If he gets to 2, you get outwit or prob out of him, or willpower out of him. It's beautiful. You put the time gem on him so that he has super senses. He's immortal. You can't touch him. And remember, if we look at the dial, how often that time gem comes up. The next one is Terra. Again, support. Cheaper than Elixir, not as awesome. free move, a bunch of great things that you can do. Now, the following one I'm going to say is my personal tech, and this is the one that I've played around with. And you're going to laugh at this one, but it proved that Incredible Hulk wasn't all the way bad. Rick Jones. Rick Jones.
What the heck is Rick Jones?
Rick Jones from Incredible Hulk. Now, people, bear with me. He's 48 points. He has Avengers TA and Spider-Man TA. Okay, so he can.
Wait, you mean the WizKids made an Incredible Hulk set? Was it any good? What's going on here?
That's bravo,
Go
sir.
ahead, man. No, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Go ahead, man.
Bravo. But you push fastest first click with Close Combat Expert. That's a given. His second click, you go into his alter ego status, but he also has Perplex. So the thing is that you can turn into A-Bomb. You're never turning into A-Bomb. If you see someone turn into A-Bomb, ask them why you wasted your time. Yeah, don't friends don't let friends let Rick Jones turn into A-Bomb. Okay. The next is Captain Marvel, and the one after that is Guinness Vale. We haven't seen Guinness Vale. We have seen Captain Marvel. But here's the main reason why you're going to play Rick Jones with a partial gauntlet. And again, he's going to have Time Gem. That's all that you're putting on him. First off, you have Perplex at 48 points, and people are going to say, that's expensive. And then you're going to put a gauntlet on him? Yes. Yes, I am. Because you're going to have, you have cool team abilities like Superman Enemy. Guess what? Now you've gained Perplex and Outwit, and when later down the line, you're going to have Prob, Buddy, and Perplex. Okay. The other thing that becomes ridiculous with Rick Jones is that his gauntlet will transfer to Captain Marvel. Okay. And Captain Marvel, in my opinion, so for what we see for Captain Marvel, now again, I can't talk about Guinness Vale. Okay, so Guinness Vale might actually increase his stock more. But with Captain Marvel, remember, he's going to get that gauntlet once he AEs. So if whatever stage of the gauntlet you're at, that's cool. The next thing is once you turn to Captain Marvel as an AE, the first click you get probability control. So you're like, I have probability control. You lose your Avengers TA, that's fine, that's a fair trade-off. Now you have a figure with Phasing Teleport, 9 attack, 16 defense, 2 damage, and then the trait when you turn to Captain Marvel is, fresh from the negative zone, if Captain Marvel is added to your force through the use of Alter Ego ability, modify his attack and defense value by +1.
That's kind of cool.
Yes, so here we go. Let's really think about this. We'll have a 10 attack when we transform and a 17 defense. If we get later down the line and we get to be able to, get +1 stats, we'll have an 11 attack and an 18 defense. Okay, and you also have to remember is he has probability control. So he'll be packing in 3 damage with probability control and 9 range. Okay, and then you can call things like running shot, and you have energy explosion with 2 targets. So you can, that running shot really is going to help. You can call out Outwit. You can do all this fun stuff. Pretty much, he is a boss. And the icing on the cake, sir, is when he transforms into Captain Marvel, he has Indomitable and Flying. Go run, tell that. So he yeah, and he's Indomitable. So that is the only reason I feel that's really like legitimately that you don't overlook him is he gets Indomitable when he turns into Captain Marvel. So that's my spiel on Rick Jones. I know again we disagree on the support thing, but I think that if you really need that TK and you want to hold on to it, this is the closest thing that you're going to get to Lisa Drac in the meta. Even then, it's sort of iffy because you're going to like do something with Rick, and then sort of say like, hey, I did something with Rick. I'm going to hold on to TK and take a push so that you could TK the guy again and then be able to do that. So he's carryable. There's a lot of things that you can do, and in the end, I think that Rick Jones transforming into Captain Marvel is going to be awesome. Hope Ginsdale is just as good. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, that's a really nifty idea. That's actually, man, you like blew my mind with that because I don't think I have Rick Jones. That makes me want to go on the network.
Yeah, and he's cheap.
That's funny.
He's real cheap, and I mean you shouldn't pay more than 50 cents for one. So I think that's the greatest thing. Okay, so like with any guest that I have on the show recently, we're going to ask the crazy off the wall question. And with George, since I know him so well, after talking with him for a while, I will ask the one question that I know that he's going to hate. Is this?
Oh, my favorite kind of question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If you had to pick one Colossal to play, you had to play that Colossal, and it can't be like Galactus or Starro or Spectre. What Colossal would you play, sir?
Oh my God, I don't even know what Colossals are out right now. Oh jeez. Onslaught looks pretty cool. Is he a Colossal?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I play him in a 300-point game?
No.
Well, that's my pick. I'm gonna bring an overly built character to a 300-point game and get disqualified.
Okay, and so you have to understand when I talk with George, the one thing that he refuses to play is Colossals, and I told him that one day we're going to talk about Colossals. He's like, never. So I sort of ambitious. Yeah, it's just too many disadvantages, and that comes up. But I think it's fun play, and with the new Galactic Guardians, the Watcher and Master Mold and Galactus, they're going to change the meta, and so that's something that we have to look forward to. So, all right, well, this is the Starting Over podcast. We appreciate your listener viewership, whatever it is, and remember, wins don't last forever, and you got to start over sometime. Thanks for listening.